Good morning, everybody. My name is Francesco Tarquini. I will introduce you, the case study. I will tell you what happened in l'Aquila in 2009, and how the city reacted to this very big earthquake. And this will be the starting point of the work of this week. This project is about prevention and managing of crisis and disaster. We had a very big disaster in l'Aquila, so we thought that it was a good start point on which to focus all the training week. So to start, we have to give to you just an overview of what happened, how we react, and maybe we can all together find a new solution for the future and for an event like this. So all of us here in l'Aquila know very well these two data, the date and the time, because at that time a very, very strong earthquake struck the city of l'Aquila. Here is the map of the earthquake made by the National Earthquake Managing Authority, and it was very, very big. And so in the middle of the night, fortunately it was the night between Sunday and Monday, so a lot of students were not here, and was very lucky for them, because we had many people died in this earthquake. As you can see, it was not so light. This is a church. This is an house, another house, a church. As you can see, all materials here around, all in the street, in the center of the city. It was really, really a hard earthquake. Just the day after, we started to recover our server from the building of the university, because we made a very big mistake. Now we know that was a very big mistake, but we made a very big mistake because we had the server, we had the backup, but more or less in the same building, or in the building close to the main server. So it is not a good practice to have a backup in the same building, because if the building fall down, the backup and the main server and the backup, they will be both unavailable. So there was a mistake. Now we know, but at that time we didn't think about that. We didn't think that we can lose a building. The idea of losing a structure, for us a building, was completely crazy. Okay, we can lose a server because it will break something inside, but the idea to lose the entire building was completely unbelievable for us. So no one thought that maybe there would be a better idea to put the server and the backup in two different places, very far one to the other, or maybe to have the backup in the cloud and so on, but that was just the first solution. So we started to recover our server, and then we put the server on the tracks outside the university, connecting with cables, fiber optical cables all together, and it was very very strong work that our technician made in 2-3 days. They make the network working again, not at 100% for sure, but we start to receive all the calls, all the emails and everything from students and from staff of university. They are asking us what I have to do, because maybe there are some students that had exams and so on in these days, so they didn't know how to behave. They don't know where to go, if they can do the exam and so on. So we made up just a crisis management center, if we can call like this. We put some computers in the main hall of one of the building of the university. This building is called Capofila 1, and is a particular building because it's made almost by concrete, so it was almost undamaged from the earthquake. So we can use that building, and we put some server there and some computer, and you cannot read here, but here there is, for example, university. Engineering studies, medicine studies, and so on. So each desktop was dedicated to a course, and there were people there answering to the calls and trying to give information to the students, how they will act, and so on. Then we had lucky to have a wireless connection network between, among all the buildings of the university. That was an experimental, at the time it was an experimental network, wireless network, and it had a very low bandwidth. It was just, if I remember well, 50 megabytes when it started. So it was a very, very low bandwidth. We multiply it for a factor of 10, so we had 500 megabytes of bandwidth in the wireless connection, and we managed to connect all the buildings of the university, because for sure we didn't have the cable. Or better, we had the cable, but the cable were completely destroyed by the earthquake, so we had to think very fast to a solution that can help us to restore the connection between those buildings. And the idea was to enhance the wireless network that we already had, but it was very, very low bandwidth. We used it just for some backup or for some transferring some kind of data, but it was not used for connecting the building of the university. Then we enhanced using, with the help of Selex, which is telecommunication company here in L'Aquila, we enhanced this network, multiplying by 10 the bandwidth, and we managed to connect more or less all the buildings in the university. So, some consideration about this. We were lucky because University of L'Aquila had spent many hours of working in information system. And we were lucky because we were able to use our information system to reach the students, and also to we started in that period to have some exam online, or to have some lectures online. It was now it's more or less normal that we can say we have lesson or lecture and so on internet online. But at that time it was unbelievable. No one here was thinking about having an exam or a lesson just in front of our computer. It was completely new for us, and in a way it prepared us for the COVID-19 pandemic. When the COVID-19 pandemic arrived, we say, okay, but why don't we have online lesson? Why we can't do exam online and so on? We already did. So it was in this case it was a training for us. Okay, not good one, but it was a training for us. And so we react using and enhancing the information system of the university. Then we try to develop a greater integration between students and staff of the university, using as many communication means as we can, email, phone, and everything that we can use. We had something like this outside the building of the university, and people graduated inside this very temporary, location. It was very, very hard for us, but this was for us. This was the starting point for the reconstruction. So it was for sure a disaster. We lost people. So we cannot replace people. We can replace building. We can replace everything, but we cannot replace people. But for us, it was a new starting point. And from this starting point, many initiatives and many projects came, and so we have let's call it's very bad to say, but we had the opportunity to start from a green field. We had nothing before, so we can start from zero, and we can rebuild everything starting from a very green field. And since that, we took some time for sure. Because just when the earthquake happened, we have to react to the situation, just to provide the students with a solution for the day after. But some years later, in 2014, yes, some good project came, and we started to rebuild the city and rebuild our university and our way of thinking in a new way. The first one was the project named Incipit. Is a very big project. It's 5 million euros, and he had also an extension with more or less another 2 million euros. So almost 7 million euros of this project. And this project let us to have the opportunity to build many things inside this city. And for the first time, we thought the city as a living lab. Okay, we are now is more or less common to say that the city can be a living lab, but in 2014 it was very innovative. We starting to think that the city can be a laboratory. Okay, we can check, we can test things using the city. What I mean in saying this, for example, we have here in the city center, just underneath the street, just down the street, there is a tunnel which we call smart tunnel, because it's smart because in this tunnel every connection passes through this tunnel, and it's useful for us because we can test, for example, fiber optical cables and so on. We can deploy it in this tunnel and we can test it. But I will show you something here later. So it also gave us the opportunity to have some, jobs here in the city of L'Aquila, because ZTE, which is a company, a very big Chinese company, came here and established a research center here in L'Aquila. So using, as I said to you, using the city as a laboratory, they established a laboratory here in L'Aquila, and so it will, till now, is giving us the opportunity to provide people with jobs, and also we are collecting people from all around the world to come here and to check, to study and to check something in this research center. So we have this opportunity. Then another big opportunity was the 5G trial. Now everybody here has the 5G, or more or less we all have the 5G. But in 2017, it was just experimental, and L'Aquila was one of the 5, if I remember well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 cities that experimented in the 5G. So among with Milan, Prato, Bari, Matera, and L'Aquila, these were the 5 cities involved in the 5G trial. We had the opportunity to test the real 5G. When I say the real 5G, is because it's not the 5G that we are using now. It was the experimental one. We have the full bandwidth. I saw with my eyes downloading a file at 2.5 gigabit per second from a mobile phone. So it was really a 5G. Now we are working on 6G, but we will have the real 5G in a while. And this 5G is not just, for my mobile phone or for our mobile phone. It involves very large, issues and thematic, and we can, yes. For example, we can use it for the ICT, and I will show you something in a while. It can be used in law enforcement, in agriculture. And this one is very important for us, is structural health monitoring, because just after the earthquake, we thought that it was very important to provide our building, this building is one of these, with a network of sensors that every day will tell us how is the health of this building, structural health of this building. So every building renewed or rebuilt just after the earthquake is equipped with this kind of technology. There are pilot action that we made for Inchpit project. One is, as I told you, the smart tunnel. Here in yellow you can see the tunnel in the city of L'Aquila, and this is a picture of what is inside the tunnel. There is nothing, but there is a lot of potentiality, because you can walk inside it, you can place cable inside this tunnel, and you can go there to check if something goes wrong and so on. You can also deploy just one ring of optical fiber without any cut in the cable, because you can just throw the cable inside the tunnel and you can use it to deploy the optical ring. Then we used also, we have the pilot action also in building monitoring. This is the building in which we are now, and this building is monitored, and I think I hope this is also sustainable and efficient, because we put here some, some sensor that gather the data from all the building, but also we are working on, for example, ventilation system, heating system, cooling system, and so on, with not normal, algorithm, but with algorithm that we are studying and testing here on this building in collaboration with University of Pennsylvania. We will send them the data of this building. They send us back maybe the new algorithm to test here, and is also now is working this way. And then in cultural heritage, we use the pilot action of Incipit to use the ICT technology to enhance the cultural heritage. So we made some 3D reconstruction of some church and buildings in the city of L'Aquila, and you can see something here. For example, we also reconstruct some masterpieces that were lost during the earthquake. It's not the same, but you can see through the augmented reality or to the virtual reality, and you can see something that now doesn't exist anymore because it was completely destroyed by an earthquake, or is reconstructed in a different way. And this one for us and for this project is very important because it's the structural monitoring of the building. We put sensor in the building, and what we are trying to do is to create the model of the building and try to see how the building will react to an earthquake or a very huge event like an earthquake. We can create the history of the building, and we can see if it decreases, the health of the building decrease just by, in the time of there is something particular that makes it go worse. And we have created this model. These are the sensors. We built this sensor, okay? We just use, for sure, sensors that already exist, like accelerometers I can't remember which one, but we used already existing sensor, but we put all together in a board, and we created our node. We call this one node, and we put this node all in some places of the buildings, as you can see here. And why we are doing that? Because we're trying to have this thing here, which is a earthquake early warning. We saw something very interesting when we went to the Azorre. They have something very good about early warning, and what we are trying to do here is to use the data coming from all these sensors to try to guess in which direction the earthquake comes and how long it takes to arrive, for example, to this building. The idea is to use something like this. We have a building that is hit by an earthquake. It can tell to all the other buildings that the earthquake is coming, and the building can prepare themselves in a way to react to the earthquake. How they can prepare themselves? For example, they can cut all the electricity, or they can open all the doors, the gas, and so on. So it will prepare to have a very huge stroke, and maybe will prevent some people to get injured, because they also can send some alarm and so on and tell the people to go out of the building. Why we need the 5G? Because, you know, earthquake is fast, but it's not so fast, okay? 5G is much more faster. So we can use the 5G connection between buildings, and in this case we can say just to the building, prepare yourself before the waves of the earthquake arrives, because, you know, the earthquake is very, very slow with respect to the 5G connection. Okay. I think I have to go a little bit faster, otherwise. Okay, this pilot action was about cultural heritage. Another important thing that we did, that is related to the reconstruction of the building, is to take a lot of pictures and a lot of videos during the reconstruction of the buildings. Why? Because now, using the virtual and augmented reality, we can show to the users, to the students, or everyone that comes here in L'Aquila, putting on the visor, they can see, through the ceilings, through the floor, and so on, and they can see what is beneath this floor. For example, here, there is a floor, or better, now there is no floor, but now, in this moment, there is a floor on this level. This is Palazzo Camponeschi, which is the main building of the university, and this kind of ceiling of the floor beneath is now you cannot see it anymore because it's covered by the new floor. But using virtual reality, or better, using augmented reality, you can put a visor and you can see through the floor and see how is made the ceiling of the floor beneath. So we used we took a lot of pictures. Then we used the 3D scanners also to scan some masterpieces. For example, this is a wood. Yes, it's a wood image of yes, Madonna, Holy Mother. Then we create some reconstruction of something that never exists. For example, this is a facade of a church which is very close to the university. Here there is the main building of the university. Here there is the church. This facade does not exist. Okay, we just have some, some design of this facade like this. And using this design, very old design, we reconstructed it in a virtual way, and using augmented reality, we put it on the church just to see how can it appear in the mind of the designer. Why I'm telling you all of this? We also have some virtual tour of some church of l'Aquila. I'm telling you all of these things because those are, in some way, how we reacted to a very bad event. We took this opportunity to build something on the ashes of a very bad event. And now we have the idea to never stop to do something like this. Even we are not thinking to face another earthquake, but the idea is always to keep, for example, why to take pictures of an old building before reconstructing or before building it. The idea is just like this, because maybe in the future we need to know how it was in the past, and if you don't take the picture, you don't take the data before you reconstruct the building, you don't have you will not have the chance anymore to do that. So, and why is 5G very important? I don't want to bore you with telecommunication issue, but just to know that 5G has three main pillars. It has a very low latency, so when you send a package, when you send a data through the 5G, it will arrive immediately with no latency, or very, very low latency. You have the possibility to have massive IoT, which means you can connect billions of devices all together, okay, in the same network, and you also have a very large bandwidth. So we need both. We need the three of them. For example, for structural health monitoring, we need to connect a lot of sensors. So we need the massive IoT feature of the 5G. But when some events occur, for example, an earthquake or something, very strong into the building, and the building has to say to the other buildings that something is happening, we need the low latency, because we have to transmit this information immediately. So, for example, structural health monitoring is covering two of the main issues, the main pillars of the 5G. This is about the optical fiber and the smart tunnel. Just to say here that Sumimoto, I don't know, here it is. This is a Japanese company that came here in l'Aquila just to test optical cable. Okay, a very new optical cable. They didn't find in the world a place to test 5 kilometers of optical cable without cutting it and rejoin it in a way. So they came here because we were able to provide them 5 kilometers of tunnel in which they were able to deploy the cable, and now they're testing it. So this was a very opportunity for the city of l'Aquila. And we have the optic and photonics laboratory in the city of l'Aquila, just in the main building of the university, as you can see here. This is the underground tunnel. We can call it smart because you can use it for many ideas that you have, in many kind of networks that you can deploy inside. And then let me see, because I think that I'm late, so I have to. Just after Inchbit, Inchbit for sure is not the only project, is the bigger one, but is not is the biggest one, but is not the only. just after Inchbit, we also had some other project. For example, Digital Cities Challenge. The city of L'Aquila was selected among, I think, 150, if I remember well, city in Europe, and only 10 cities, more or less, were selected to this project. We were selected as an innovative city, as a living lab city, for this reason, the reason that I told you before. Then, just after it, we had 5G for Art, which is another project that came with the Space Agency. Then we have the follow-up of the Digital Cities, which is Intelligent Cities. Okay, we had the follow-up, and L'Aquila was selected again as the follow-up of the other project, so in a way we were lucky. And now, December 2020, there was another project running here. It's called House of Emerging Technology. And also in this project, L'Aquila is selected because it's considered a living lab. So many companies can come here to L'Aquila to test the products and to use the city as a laboratory. And we are very proud of it. And unfortunately, we had this opportunity because we had the earthquake. So the idea is, starting from what happened to L'Aquila, what we can do to better react next time to an event like this. And for example, I told you a very, very stupid example, but one idea is never put the backup and the server in the same building. It's a stupid idea, but no one thought before, so it's not so stupid. And now you have, I tried to give you just a little overview. 20 minutes is very short time, but just a little overview of what happened. If you need some information, you can ask me information. If you want to see something, with your eyes, we can go around the city and you can see what happened. I can show you also the sensor network deployed in the buildings, where are the sensors and how they are made. And the idea is that can be the starting point for the challenge of this week. So use these images and these data just as an input data for your idea and for the system that we want to study in the next days. So I think I'm done with my presentation just on time. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. So this was a very good introduction to what the students will be required to do, to imagine problems, not only solving problems, but imagining which problems could happen in a real situation. So this is prevention. This means to have a picture of what can happen. Of course, nobody can prevent everything, but to have the attitude to look at what can happen, it is the way to become citizens responsible of what they are doing. Francesco didn't say another important thing, that the experimentation of 5G, real 5G, was the starting point of a collaboration of the university with the former Fiat, then FSA, now I don't remember how it is called, another name. So this is, in this university, Stellantis, okay. This university is the only research laboratory of Fiat outside Torino. So this is another important consequence. Just to joke, to say something funny according to this, so we had a lot of experience of bad things and we reacted to this. When there was the first lockdown for COVID pandemic, I received a telephone call from a colleague from the Polytechnic of Milan. And he asked me, how are you managing this emergency with the online lesson? And I said, we started already. Ah, really? Ah, but you are used to disasters. Okay, so it was not very nice, but indeed we had the experience of disaster, so we could cope with the new disaster with a new mentality, new readiness. Okay, So thank you, and next speaker.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gabriele Ponzoni. I am a geologist. Sometimes it's possible to find one geologist in your life. And today I want to give you a bit information from different experience in Italy, in European area, and in different organizations. I worked in ENGV. ENGV is the Italian National Geophysical Earthquake to study to management the situation from earthquake and volcanology. I worked in Italy as advisor in the Italian Council to geologists in professional activity. So a bit experience in different situation and natural peril. I worked in Brussels because I was General Secretary of EFG. EFG is the European Federation of Geologists, is a community, is house of geologists in European area in professional activity, not in academic world and author. And so very brief presentation is because my person is not important. And I want to try. Okay, natural risk. Natural risk is possible to find with different point of view, because for my personal experience is the key to management the sea situation is the size of energy to fight the specific land of territory. Before to listen the specific experience in Aquila from 2009 and earthquake is only first portion of land of territory. Yes, is big event, earthquake, what you want, but is a specific situation in territory. And so high energy event depend on by impact to specific surface of territory. Sorry, sit down so it's possible to me to management the PC, okay. And so is it possible to find the low energy is typical local, landslide is a very fantastic example about seas, but often landslide is not only. I went from Bologna in May, very huge impact from floods, if you listen or read the newspaper, and the big problem from management of water, because in 2 weeks more 700 landslide to fight the territory. And is not only one, so it's very difficult to management, sees huge quantity of the situation. But more important is the time. Is not only one example to management the sea situation, but is the timing to arrive in your territory. And so is important management event, but also with the human activity seas territory, because it's two example. Earthquake and tsunami in Messina is the first part of 20th century. If you remember, of course, you studied this very academic situation to earthquake to fight the two port and the southern of Italy, and recent and very recent event in Emilia-Romagna earthquake is different situation. The first case is typical from old century, and the management without public authority to help local population and aid the specific situation in local, and totally without preparation, without structured organization. Second is very interesting situation because it fight the high level of technology, the territory in Italy is very rich reason, but all industries collapsed after the earthquake, and to lost a lot of employee and a lot of capacity to manufacturing. And so it's necessary to management two different way: economic and the future for you improve for your territory. Okay. different type of event, from local and big size of event, and the different type of sequence, because it's possible to use the SIS situation in single event, is the before example for landslide, but not only, because if you remember the Pinatubo eruption in 1991, okay, to start with eruption of the volcano of Pinatubo, but after arrived the monsoon rain, and after arrived the landslide, a other natural hazard. So the sequence is very important when you analyze the specific part of territory. In short, it's necessary to understand exactly the specific situation in your territory, not the single event, but the complex event and how is it possible to evolution. This is a typical picture from the scale, the magnitude of event and the timing is a possible occurrence, the time of the go back the SIS event in the fight the territory. More energy, the time is more long. Low energy is it possible to appear in your territory very, very quickly and with high level of frequency. Other is a typical scale when you analyze the volcano's scale. Is typical this picture when you want to analyze the energy impact of your territory, because it's the scale of Vey. The scale of Vey is the scale in 5 degrees above SIS, and is it possible to management the level of energy. If you remember, 2010 in European area, all fly is locked by eruption in Iceland. And this is very deep impact for economic situation, European situation, because all flight is locked for one volcano eruption, not for all, for on one. And if you think analyze about the Vesuvio volcano, is it possible to manage the strong scenarios to lock the more 30% of economic area in European situation is locked. Okay, this is typical mathematician to try to analyze the risk with the element you have for your situation. It's very common, this equation, and it's very common because it's the vulnerability about the structural or the exposed value or the dangerous situation is typical and is normal for you possibility to use in a lot of academic tests, etc. But it's very simple and sometimes is not right about the analysis situation, the whole situation. And is it possible to modify this equation about the specific land situation and the land infrastructural present in your territory? This is only one example. It's only one example to catch different situation about is necessary to adaptation this equation for specific risk in one part of Italy. Now it's not important which, but is only one example how is it possible to adaptation the SIS number about the SIS situation for you, for the value and how and what you analyze. But it's only one example. It's possible modified by the different situation. And now is a typical cycle about the vulnerability management. How do you use you knowledge about the natural hazard? Not all a natural hazard is very deep to take the knowledge, and the vulnerable system is typical for the human activity in specific land, and together you give you the area about the risk of disaster and you approach. Plan, discovery, etc. is typical of cycle. This is energy and the situation. And this is very interesting approach because a lot of people use the work in management or emergency situation and follow in the theory, the black swan theory. It's very interesting because a lot of time before to arrive at the strange situation or unusual situation, you don't use your knowledge about to design or to analyze the situation. After all experts, after all people arrived to management, this information arrived to give you the explain, etc. But only after. Is typical for mental approach because the strange data, the strange situation is not in your mind normal way, and you have the difficulty to engage this new information. And before you listen the author professor to give you the information by Aquila, because if you remember, the first step, don't think about to management the server and the author, the PC situation and the management of the data. Only after, okay, the natural risk give me the problem to management the data server, etc., and give a new start and impulse about the new building to the safety situation. Okay, this is other typical problem from human mind, and the problem from heuristic traps is typical when you arrive in specific context and don't use the problem to management the information, and a lot of the time use the information on air availability. Is typical because your brain use the short way to take the information. Anchoring is typical for define on your position. Narciso effect, your theory is the better of the author. And discordance, author information is not important or not fit with your theory is not important. Detail is typical when your brain collapses under pressure. High level of detail, and you lost the vision of all situation. Is typical very high pressure in different situations. But it's only one example, because if it's necessary when you design a project, the plan in emergency situation, don't plan only natural hazard, because it's very important is human factor. Because the natural risk arrived, okay, it's earthquake, it's tsunami, what do you want? But the answer from human, if you not take attention, don't pay attention about the correct training, the human employee about this, all plane fall, often. Is typical example. I take this example because for me it's very interesting, giving you the point of view. Now is very strange situation in Second World War, and a lot of money, a lot of attention in a very strong war, and the Allied command bomber have the problem because a lot of flight too lost in the world, and to start analyze the situation. And now is very typical the error from mind approach, because analyzing statistical data from all flight to go back in the base in UK and other Allied bases, and to control and to check where the fight to touch the plane. So is it possible management the situation and give more security about the armor. But the veil is statistician physical is not correct, because now you take the data, only the bomber go back. The bomber not go back, have the heavy problem, and perhaps the very problem stay, and you not touch the point, the contact with the snapper from the flak. So the real intuition correct and go in correct way, in right way to approach the statistical data is typical, because a lot of the data is not clear, and it's important not analyze the situation in all the way, but it's necessary to analyze with the point of view the problem. Not the point of view is very easy to touch and to count the point of contact from the flak. But now it's necessary to very important to analyze what is the problem. Okay, heuristic trap is more preful. The problem when your brain no find the data or use the classic model from you approach the information. Okay, the solution is very easy. Is it possible to management this information when you build the team? And so is it possible to analyze the disease data from different point of view, from different skill, from different ability, and from the technical approach? Because this is important, because this is a statistical approach about the last very big event yet in last century. And if you note, the number of events is very huge improve. So, of course, in your career, of course, you meet the very big event in natural disaster. Is mathematical. And this is in different type of climatological, hydrogeological, geophysical, is different. But it is important that this number improve. And this is data from ONU report. And the different type of disaster from the floods, storm, etc. If you note the huge number of natural disaster is flood and storm, is typical for climate change or climate different type of approach of territory. If you remember before, the teacher give you strange situation from your memory in the seas territory. The problem from the water and the storm, the flood is the problem from the water. It totally changed now. And the other type is typical, is not important, but seas is important because you possible to see different type of natural disaster from specific type, tsunami, earthquakes, etc., and number the deaths and the timing in sequence. The ONU report. And the seas is the spreading in world around where you possibly touch the seas disaster. It's very interesting because you know in West countries the problem is economic problem when arrive at the disaster. In other part of the world the problem is the died. A lot of people died because the territory is not correct designed or is not correct planned, is not correct to approach to management the situation from natural disaster. In West countries, is more information is possible and available, so is it possible to build and resilience of territory. Now, from European Commission, the word resilience is mandatory for all projects for futures. Because now it is impossible to manage all disaster for futures, so it is better to approach in improve the resilience of territory. Now, this is very interesting because when you find the red arrow, is it possible to manage the very interesting, huge improve the number of events from different category, from different type of category, and the storm and the flood is two main category to impact of territory in different sequence of the timing analyzed. And this is in a very short way is the analysis of economic cost from the seas disaster, from the seas event in different situations, in different countries, in different parts of the world. This data is possible to search in ONU data online. Now, this is interesting because when you go from the past, from the present, you note the improve of number of event, red column, and the number, the cost about the seas fight by territory. Is not important which part of the world. Is important the type, the different, the event, and the improve the sea situation. And for futures, the seas type of the cycle improve, of course, because more building, more infrastructural, more water situation, and more the cost. Now is estimate the improve from different event, Kobe earthquake, China earthquake, Hurricane Katrina, etc. And so is possible in more timing scale, so is improve the seas event. This is interesting because a lot of these people present in this room now sees log scale and climate change from temperature. Is very famous this graphic. But it is important this part, because this part give you very specific information. You have in the cycle more energy. More energy is more climate situation, is more storm, is more flood, is more energy in the water. So more energy in the water, more energy will arrive in the land. Is necessary rebuild and redesign the plane of territory, because all European area to build and to project the plane of territory from the past with the situation is totally different. If you think the statistical approach from the water, from the rain, is different from modern age, for modern time, current time. And now the seas graphic give you is necessary rebuilding the channel situation from different situations. I from Bologna 2 weeks ago. It's very heavy flooded. And for me, it's very surprised, because in my territory, I never think before, okay, I have this type of problem. And this is typical the black swan theory. The black swan theory is very interesting because it's an approach from category. Before this specific event, I don't think it's possible to arrive there. After, okay, this event is normal, is possible, because this is the same information, but is to change the mental approach about this. And the two type of the black swan. The first type is the accept by the public debate, and is it possible to take the theory, okay, this situation is arrived at me, and now I understand why. And second, I reject about this theory, reject about this fact, reject all data, and non accept. This is very problem. Now, this is the mathematical model to the crisis from the crash market in 2008 and 2007. Is a physical approach from economic world. Is totally mistake and wrong, because this is a physical approach theory about the natural event. And now to employ the SIS theory in physics from the economic world is crazy, this approach, because to born from different sector, from different context, as now is typical in a lot of modeling mathematical approach, because use the mathematical approach, okay, this is nice, I want to try this theory in my sector. Just a moment. And you sure the SIS theory is correct for your sector, for your experience? And the other key, the world population grew a lot in last century. And now when you take the situation from your land, it's necessary to take also the situation. But it's not very simple, because, for example, in Vesuvio volcano in southern of Italy, they have a very big problem to manage a lot of population. 800,000 of population is necessary to evacuation if the volcano started. But a lot of these people is old. A lot of people have the health problem. And so it's not very easy, because the SIS date give you your territory perhaps will be a lot of problem to management evacuation or other deep impact. Now, this is a statistical approach from different data in different category of natural peril, and I finish.
Good morning to everybody. My name is Progetto. I'm an engineer in Umbria region, central Italy. I'm very sorry not to be with you this morning, but I will try to address as well my presentation. Part of the content of this presentation will be from my work at the Umbria region administration in central Italy, and other parts will be presented and come from a recent experience on a master from LUMSA University and EDIMAS in official and prevention and emergency management. The thesis related to this recent experience was inspired by 4 concepts that I tried to bring together. 1, every territory should deal with its future of development and well-being, addressing risk prevention and citizen safety as priorities. 2, in modern society, crisis management requires an integrated and as much as multidisciplinary approach. 3, Italian civil protection, with its undisputed ability to manage emergencies, maybe can do more about forecasting and mainly prevention activity. That is the key of civil protection, in my opinion. 4, unfortunately, these activities are not political priorities, so we need to find every integration and synergy possible among policies and funding available today for all these topics. I would say that in Europe, Italy, together with Iceland, shared a not so nice record of having all kinds of natural hazards and risks. And if we go to analyze better the intensity and the frequency of this kind of risks, seen risks like the combination of hazard, exposure and vulnerability, we see that floods, landslides and earthquakes are the main risks to deal with in civil protection activities. Zooming in Italy, we can say that Italy is a very prone to disasters country, and if we go to the statistics, main statistics of the 3 main risks, earthquakes, floods and landslides, we can see that at least every municipality has to deal with some of these problems. Fortunately, there are available a lot of national and regional statistics and GIS data in platforms for hazard and risk scenarios in order to analyze the problem and also implement early warning models and tools if possible. Civil protection in Italy was born in 1982. I think you already heard something this morning from other professors. I would say that in the last law of 2018, it's quite clear that civil protection has to deal with the safeguard of human life, health, goods and national heritage, human settlements, animals and the environment from both natural and man-made disasters. To do this, we deal mainly with 4 kinds of activities: prediction and forecasts, prevention and preparedness, and then emergency management and the recovery phase. To do this, we have to underline that in Italy, civil protection is not a task assigned to a single administration, but a function in a complex and comprehensive system, where public, scientific, academic subjects and civil society play a major role. Emergency usually are managed bottom-up, starting from the local level, and then, if required, also the national level comes to support the other administration and subjects. Like authorities, we have the town mayor, then the regional governor, and the prime minister. Just to give an example of regional level, Umbria region, central Italy, this is a picture of the regional center for civil protection. Before I was telling you that, in my opinion, the civil protection main challenge is to deal with prevention. Prevention can be structural and non-structural. You can read the main activities that usually are inside these boxes, but I would say the main non-structural activities are early warning systems and planning. We'll provide some example of these topics just now. Early warning was born in 2004 in Italy. Is a network of offices, one for each region and one of coordination in civil protection department in Rome. It deals with forecasting, monitoring, and supervision of risk scenarios. Declaration of criticality level, and then early warning, and if required, 24-hour monitoring and support for civil protection authorities. To do this, we developed at national level a lot of technology and platforms in order also to share data in real time for what concerns ground stations, meteorological radar, satellite images, and also the ability of producing geo-referenced maps and so on. This is the example at the regional scale of how work procedures in this early warning system, and the tools that usually are used in order to arrive to the criticality definition for each alerting zone in Italy. All this work is homogeneous for each region. The other part in prevention is planning. I would say that if by law we have to guarantee coordination among municipality level planning, regional, national planning, we have to guarantee citizen participation, and I would say an integrated strategic planning approach. Because otherwise, if we go vertically and with just, I would say, an engineering point of view, we will go nowhere. First of all, we need to understand people's perception about civil protection and risks. This is an example of Umbria region study in 2013 on which the regional plan was based. We tried to understand the perception of risks looming over territory, the perception of the role and functions of civil protection authorities, components, and so on, the role of the volunteers and the general people, and also to understand critical points and strengths of the system and suggestion for the future. I said that this was a very important part in order to write the regional civil protection plan, the multi-risk plan, and it was very useful also to match civil protection activities with the strategic planning of the region and also the urbanistic planning. This is an example of how the plan is produced. This is an example of flood risk with all the maps, with the monitoring network activities, and also the matrix of intercorrelation among risks. This plan is in progress of being updated mainly after the pandemic, where the regional center was the coordination part of all activities at regional scale in coordination with the national level. At regional level, we also produced guidelines for each municipality in order to have a good quality municipality level civil protection plan. And if we want to add a new approach, a new way to read the territory and the current and next challenges, I would say that we need to start from the Agenda 2030 and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, because civil protection is inside this approach, and it can be very, very useful. If we see the example of Umbria region monitoring situation compared to the national level, we can also understand the priorities in each territory to deal with the conditions of development, and so also of a good policy also for what concerns civil protection. Another tool that we have to deal with is territorial resilience indicators. Just to understand the approach that is quite common today among European funds management, the performance-based approach, in order to have indicators able to make a picture of the situation for what concerns resilience or civil protection issues in general, and to monitor the effect of our activities, the policies and so on in time. It's a very important tool, because we have to produce plans that can be measured, can be updated, and can provide tools also for mayors or the policies, the political level, because we need to be accountable also in this field. Passing to the last part of the presentation, the thesis of the master dealt with the exercise to find a synergy between two different participated multi-level approaches in Italy. One is the inner areas Italian strategy. It's a territorial policy born in 2014 for improving quality of services for citizens and economic opportunities in territories at risk of marginalization, all the hilly and mountainous parts of Italy or in the south. And for what concerns Umbria, for example, we deal with now 5 areas and over 60 million euros for next years. And it can be really useful tool also to enhance civil protection activities, because the 2018 civil protection law introduced the need to find between the municipality level and the provincial level a so-called optimal civil protection territorial areas based on the merging of municipality borders in order to identify basic articulation for civil protection function at territorial level. And in Umbria, these activities was carried out in 2019, and 9 optimal areas were formally identified in 2021, with the primary and the secondary center of reference for each area. Like conclusions, I would say that if the borders of these two kind of policies are perfectly matched together, the synergy is really, really easy and can be a significant boost for both civil protection activities and development activities in a territory. Otherwise, we have to provide some adjustments, but this synergy can be still very, very useful. That's it. I hope not to have bored you to hell, and I hope this meeting will be very, very useful and fun, and I hope to meet you as soon as possible. Bye-bye. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, so now we make a little break. So we meet again here at 11, and we start with the next presentation at 11. We are a little bit